Welcome to the AlzAuthors podcast. We're so glad you found us. We're the global community of authors writing about Alzheimer's and dementia from personal experience to light the way for others. I'm Marianne Sciucco, a registered nurse, author, and dementia daughter.
And I'm Christy Byrne-Yates, a licensed educational psychologist, dementia daughter, AlzAuthor, and coach focused on the sandwich generation. Please join us for bi-weekly episodes with our authors as we talk about their dementia journeys, sharing intimate details and painfully obtained knowledge to help others currently on that path.
We hope these stories offer you comfort and support as we strive to break the silence and stigma surrounding a dementia diagnosis.
May one of our authors speak to your experience.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to AlzAuthors, Untangling Alzheimer's and Dementia. We are so glad you're joining us today. I'm Marianne Sciucco. I'm a co-founder of AlzAuthors and the author of Blue Hydrangeas, an Alzheimer's Love Story, and I'm your host for this podcast. In case you haven't heard, AlzAuthors has transitioned to a new platform. All of the members of our management team have retired after 10 years of producing AlzAuthors' broad platform of resources for caregivers of those with Alzheimer's and dementia and people living with dementia, as well as others concerned about dementia and perhaps working in that field. We have managed to put together a collection of quality books written from personal experience with Alzheimer's and the many dementias, almost 400 titles in our collection. And we have had the privilege of meeting and working with all of these wonderful, wonderful authors, many of whom are former caregivers who had a story to tell and managed to tell it well. They are not professional writers or authors or celebrities. They're ordinary folks. And we do have some books that were written by professionals in the field as well. So you will find a wealth of resources at AlzAuthors.com, our website. And we also have a blog, and we also have our podcast, which is our, hub, where we found that we've been able to reach many, many, many more people. But after 10 years of putting this together on a volunteer basis, our management team decided it was time to retire, and that decision was made back last summer. And at the time, we didn't know how we wanted to handle what we have built. We did not want to see our work go into some decline or demise. And after much deliberation, it was decided that we would transition our platform to All Home Care Matters, which is another platform of support for caregivers that is bigger and broader than AlzAuthors. And Lance Slatton, who runs All Home Care Matters, was gracious enough to take on this challenge. So now you will find our resources continue to remain on AlzAuthors.com. All the blog posts and the books are still there. The podcasts are still there. But in the future, anything else is going to be posted to the website at All Home Care Matters, still using the AlzAuthors.com URL. So that's very important. So all of our links still work, and you can access all of it as you had in the past. So I hope I answered any questions about this transition. It's been a long process. We had built so much, we didn't even realize how vast it was until we started to take it apart. And we dissolved the nonprofit status, and we had some funds in our treasury that needed to be disposed of. And I'll share with you what we did. We decided that the best use of the funds was to honor the authors. And so we began to distribute collections of books across the United States to worthy organizations that support caregivers. So people have received boxes and boxes and deliveries of our authors' books, and we were able to use the funds to bring all of that to organizations where people who are concerned with dementia can access them and use them and read them and learn. So that has been our mission all along, to support caregivers and to support our authors. So I think we managed to fulfill it very well in the end. So now that I've gotten that said, I would like to introduce our special guest today. Now, this will be the last podcast that I am doing under Untangling Alzheimer's and Dementia. It was planned for months before we even decided to make this transition. Deb is a very active author and on top of things, and put all of this in place well before her book was published. So I am very pleased to have as my final guests Peter Berry and Deb Bunt. These are two of my favorite people in the world and my favorite authors, and I want to share that. I have had the privilege to meet them in person on 2 occasions, which doesn't happen very often. I've only met my partners in AlzAuthors on 2 occasions over our 10-year time in person, and we always do everything online. Everybody's on a screen, but I did visit England twice and was able to catch up with Peter and Deb. And we had one lovely day at the beach where the seagull ran off with my husband's fish and chips. And then we had another day where we went to the lovely La Hogue restaurant, and I forget the name of the town that was in, but we had a lovely lunch and spent some time there at this farm. So welcome, Peter and Deb. Welcome back to Untangling Alzheimer's and Dementia.
Hello. Hello, and wonderful to be back, and we're very honoured to be the last guests, aren't we, dear?
We are.
Yes, how wonderful that is. And I hope that when you did come and visit Britain that time ago, that the weather was somewhat better than it is today.
Oh, well, yes. We have
very cold, very wet, and it's been miserable for what seems like an eternity here at the moment.
Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. So
my other
news.
Well, they would say no more. I'm jealous already.
Yeah, my other news is that I retired at the end of last year in October and came down to Florida. So I've been enjoying the Florida weather. And
well done, you.
I am really happy because people tell us you picked the best winter to get out of New York. So we've been enjoying that. So today is going to be sunshine and 70s and beach time. So that's kind of like what's going on over here. But we did have good weather the times that I visited with you.
Indeed.
Yeah, we were fortunate on those days. So Deb first came to us, I don't even remember, about 4 or so years ago, maybe. And she had this book that she wanted us to take a look at. And it was, I was going to say Patching the Puncture, but that's not the name of it.
Slow Puncture.
Well, Slow Puncture, right? Slow Puncture. And it was the book she had written about her first year relationship with Peter. And I'll let her tell you more about that. And it was a joy to welcome her into AlzAuthors. And her book is just lovely. And then she published a second book, which is The Musings from the Dementia Fog with Peter, and we will talk about that as well. But now we have a new book which has just come out. Has it been published yet, or when is it coming?
We have copies, but the official date is the 28th of February.
Okay, so February 28th will be the official date when you can go out and buy the book. And I recommend that you do. Theirs is a beautiful story of friendship and love and learning. And I think that anybody who reads it, whether they are familiar with Alzheimer's, dementia or not, are going to gain a lot from it. And that is the book Patching the Puncture. And Deb, why don't you tell us a little bit about it? Why don't you tell us how you came up with that title?
Well, I would love to take credit, but it was Peter's idea.
Well, you took credit. I wouldn't know.
I have too much integrity for that. Obviously, following on from Slow Puncture, which is a sort of nice metaphor, it reflects really the strategies that we're putting into place as Peter's condition has changed, just to keep that tire inflated. So it was a metaphor that Peter came up with, patching the puncture, continuing to live well with dementia.
Wonderful. And that's always been the focus of your work and your friendship together is living well with dementia. Can you explain, Peter, what you mean when you say living well with dementia?
Yes, so living well with dementia. Now, it's a very broad term. And my father lived with Alzheimer's for 25 years, and he lived well with Alzheimer's. Now, I never realized or thought about it much until I was diagnosed and went through the depression phase of the diagnosis for the first 12 months. And I then come to realize that we need to live well. We need to be able to achieve things. We need to have a sense of purpose. So living well for me is cycling, meeting people, doing things, going out of my comfort zone. Not the I can'ts, but the I can do's. But it doesn't have to be cycling hundreds of miles. It can be gardening, walking, laughing, joking, swimming, running. It can be having a slice of cake and a cup of coffee with somebody. That's what living well is. And I think we, regardless to dementia or any other condition, I think sometimes we miss that little focus of living well. And I think that we get so, I suppose, tangled up with our daily lives and organizing things. And what are we going to do tomorrow? And what about next week? And all of that, that sometimes people with dementia like me and my father, sometimes we were very fortunate because we were just living now. And sometimes living now is sort of a definition of living well.
Mhm. That sounds perfect. And I like the way that you talk about how living well means engaging with others and being out there in the world and not hiding away at home. And something that's just as simple as having, a visit with someone and a slice of cake and a cup of tea can make all the difference in your day. And I know that Deb has played a huge part in this because of the timing of your meeting and then how this relationship has blossomed into just a really loving, caring, supportive friendship. Can you tell us about that? How did you guys meet, Deb?
Well, we live in Suffolk on the east coast, and I had retired from London with my husband, and we chose very randomly Suffolk without knowing anybody, just because I'm quite a random person. And one of the first people I bumped into in a cycling shop was Peter, who had just completed his first cycling challenge, which was cycling from Aberystwyth in Wales back to the east coast in Aldborough. And we struck up a conversation, and he said in his rather roguish way, "I can take you out for some bike rides if you want." And he literally did mean he would take me out for some bike rides.
That's the only chat up line I have nowadays, folks.
And so that's what we did. And I started cycling. I had done a bit of cycling in London, but here in Suffolk, we have a lot of open countryside and not so many cars. And so we started cycling, and I began to hear about his Alzheimer's and his journey and his descriptions of what it was like to live with Alzheimer's. And that just cemented the friendship, I think, and my own understanding changed. And he's a very funny man, and I mean that in a complimentary sense. And we just became friends. And the Alzheimer's is almost secondary. The friendship was at the core of the relationship.
Yeah, that's I find, to be unique in that you developed your friendship after he had dementia. And
Sometimes we
how
have to think about things in a different way. So we often think about how this condition strips people away from all of the things, driving, living independently, and all of those things, the horrible things that happen. I've had this idea about switching it on its head. So had I not had this condition, I wouldn't have met Deb. I wouldn't have had the friendship with her. I wouldn't be having the experiences in life that I'm having now. So yes, it's a very, very negative disease. It's a rough deal. But can we turn it on its head and make something good out of it? Just a little something that you could say, well, actually, had I not had this condition, I wouldn't be here and I wouldn't be doing this and I wouldn't be having this lovely piece of cake and talking to these wonderful people. I don't know who they are, but am I enjoying the moment? Yes, I am. So, wow, that's got to be a positive thing in a very negative related disease, surely.
And I think I would like to stress that it's a very mutual relationship. So yes, I support Peter in some ways, but the support is reciprocated 100 times over in the ways that I need it. So I might be his external memory and prompt, but he is so many other things to me. And so it balances up as an equal friendship, not as a I'm his carer, because
she'd be nothing.
I would be nothing as a carer
without me.
No, well, I wouldn't take issue with that, but it is a very sort of reciprocated friendship, and I think that's really important for people to know.
Yes, and it defies all stigma that surrounds the diagnosis.
Yeah.
Yes,
Which
people have had for many years, people have had this idea of what dementia is, what it should be, and how it should be progress. Now, I'm not saying that I can cure this condition, but with the right mindset and the right support from friends and family, is it possible to live well and live a longer time with the condition? My father did it for 25 years. So why can't I know that everybody's condition progresses differently, and I know that people are all different, but even if somebody can only jog along for 5 or 6 or 7 years, if we have the right mindset, that 7 years, would it have been 3 years or would it have been 4 years? You know, it's all difficult to say, but the other thing that I often think is that we've got to live life to the full, because as with everybody who lives and breathes, we don't know what's happening tomorrow. So could this condition kill me? Yes, it could, but also something else could kill me in the next 6 months, in the next 3 weeks, in the next 3 days. Who knows? So therefore, life is very much an open book, and it's up to us how we write that book and how many pages that we actually write within our lives, within our book.
That's so well said. So, Deb, tell us about this new book and how does it differ from the previous two, and what you hope to gain. Yes, there's the cover. Patching
My
the
lovely
puncture.
assistant here is displaying the book. So it's different because the first book, I'd only known Peter for a year. This is 5 years after the first book, so obviously I know him a lot more. But it's also about the changes I've undergone as a person. It's about many of the activities we've done and the adventures we've had. But I think crucially, it charts the changes in Peter's condition and how that can be mitigated against what I have to do to ensure that we continue to do what we do. So yes, Peter's memory is getting worse, but that doesn't mean we stop doing. It's kind of got a chapter or two about strategies that work for us, and they may not work for everybody, but you can extract a couple of things that might work for somebody. So it's kind of a three-dimensional book. You know, what we've done, how I've changed, and what Peter has how he's changed, and what we're doing to fight against that change. I think you've read it, haven't you, Marianne? So I hope you picked that up from it. That
I did.
have to adapt. I have to adapt to Peter's changes. He can't change. He is who he is. But by adapting and accepting, and I think accepting his poor memory is really fundamental. By doing those things, we can continue to do what we do.
Yes.
And there's some humour in the book too, I've been told by my husband.
Yes, I did gather all of that from reading the book. And I found it to be an incredible testimony about friendship. This is a friendship story. It's not really a dementia story. And dementia is a big part of it, but it's all about the relationship that you have forged together, which was random. You said that you were a random person. It was a random meeting. I mean, the stars aligned. I think, this was a relationship that was meant to be, and you are on an incredible journey of exploring and helping other people learn more about this illness and how you can live well. And I want the audience to know that Peter and Deb are living like the ultimate author dream. This book was published, the first book was published, Slow Puncture, several years ago. And since then, they have been on tour across the United Kingdom, have been on television, radio, podcasts, book signings, speaking at conferences, receiving honors, awards. It's just been a dream come true, I know, for you, Deb, because you had this idea in the back of your head that you would love to be an author and someday write a book. And Peter provided you with your, he's your muse. He provided you with your topic, and 3 books have come out of it. So that is really incredible.
And not only that, gave me the confidence to believe I could do it and I can talk
Yes.
to people, whereas I never really enjoyed doing that. And now I actually quite enjoy it.
I just can't keep it
Yes.
quiet now.
And the same thing for Peter too, of putting him out there in the spotlight and having him get up in front of audiences and speak. I don't think that was something that you expected to do either, right?
No, I mean, to be honest with you, I just had this idea in the early days when I needed something, I suppose, some inspiration, uh, something to clasp onto, something good that I could do. And I thought, well, if I could just talk to somebody and just help a few people, you know, live a little better and understand what I was going through, because I realized that what I was going through was not much different to a lot of other people in my situation. And I thought, well, if I could do that, but I never, mind you, I don't actually know what we have done, if I'm really honest, but I know that we've done quite a bit. I have forgotten just about everything that we have done, but I know that I've helped people, and that to me was always my ambition to somehow make people's lives better and the people around them as well.
Yes. And you have, even though you may not realize how much you've contributed through the internet and social media and YouTube and AlzAuthors and other platforms you've been on, your message has been global. So, physically you're confined or pretty much where you are, but you're getting your message out through the books and through all of these other platforms around the world. People, I'm sure you hear from people from all over the world with, messages that they share with you, and your book reviews, feedback from the podcast and the blog posts and all of that. So, you've had a tremendous impact, more than you'll probably ever know, more than we'll ever know. We don't, you don't always hear from people. I mean, we know that people are listening, but they don't always tell us what they think, but we see the numbers. So we know that people are they're listening to our podcast, and I'm sure it's the same for you.
One thing that I have come to realize over the years, and I do realize this, is that it seems to me as though people don't always want to hear from professionals, from doctors or professional people. I think they feel more comfortable listening to somebody who is just a guy living the same situation as them. And I think somehow that is a warming thing for other people. And I think that's one thing that we've got that maybe the professionals haven't got and will never have, because I'm just a person, Deb's is just a person, we're just going through this together. I'm going through this with my family and my friends, and other people are seeing this and then thinking, you know what, maybe we could do this. Maybe we could try and do exactly the same. So they're linking into what we're doing, and that just seems a wonderful, I don't know, just a wonderful thing to give to people.
Yes.
Something that happened yesterday, in fact, we had a book launch on Monday, and I got a message from somebody who came there, and he'd asked two friends, one of whom's partner has Alzheimer's, and she hasn't really acknowledged it. And the message said, the man said, watching us interact and hearing what Peter said changed his relationship with his wife. He knows he's going to change it from now on, and things are going to be better. And that's what you're giving people. And I think that's amazing. That Peter has changed someone's marriage. That was the note I got. Wow. For the better.
For the better.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Oh, that's good then. You worried me then.
That's incredible. So speaking of marriage, both Peter and Deb are married to other people.
Oh yes, I would never marry her.
Do people ever think you guys are married?
At the same time.
You know what? I also want to bring up something else about you two that another benefit of the relationship and the friendship that maybe doesn't get said as much is that Deb is a grandmother and she has two grandchildren.
I've got 5.
You've got 5, but are they all near you or?
3 of them live in Switzerland and 2 live around the corner.
That's just
right. So the 2 around the corner has enabled Peter to develop relationships with these young children that he didn't have. So I love seeing the posts on Facebook of your activities. You helped the one boy build a little speed car or something.
Go-kart, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
And so Peter was showing my grandson how to use an electric drill, how to use matches. Yes. And in fact, on the front of the book, the silhouette figure is one of my grandchildren on the top of the bike.
Oh, I love that. On top of the penny farthing bike. Yes.
There we go. There we are. You can see little Deanie.
Yes. That's lovely. That's so wonderful.
Dean doesn't care that Peter has Alzheimer's. He doesn't know, but he doesn't care. As you say, am I fun? Yes, I like you. And it's as simple as that. And children don't judge.
No, we can learn a lot from their mindset, I think, really, to be honest. And I love giving the children knowledge, stuff that I have done when I was a child, and like making these go-karts. And fixing things, helping them to understand that it's not just throw away. You can fix it, you can make it, and you can have fun doing it. And I think that it gives them a different outlook on life, and it's, as soon as Deanie's got some toys that are broken, they're lined up. Peter will fix them, he says, And because he always helps me, doesn't he?
He does.
Yeah, dear little lad.
That's so sweet. I love that. That's joyful.
Really
and
joyful.
Children are a part of the Alzheimer's journey as well. And I know sometimes people feel they need to shield children and protect them. But, if somebody that they love or is involved in their life has a dementia diagnosis, then it affects them too. They're a part of it. So it's great to bring them into it. And at AlzAuthors, we have tons of books for children as well as for adults. So they are a useful tool for conversation and opening up discussions.
Well, I'd like to think that this generation now, like your grandson's children and their generation will have a better outlook on dementia than, say, the generation before, because they're too blinkered. And if, like AlzAuthors are doing, if they can help to educate children at an early age, then they can take that education through their lives to the next stage later on, when maybe their loved one or somebody has dementia. Then hopefully this whole generation gap will cease to finish. It will be gone, and we'll have a new way of dealing with it.
Yes, that's absolutely true. And that was a goal of ours that I think we've managed to attain, When we started AlzAuthors, there really weren't a lot of books available to people about the personal journey and what was going on in people's private lives. And since then, now there are numerous volumes written and on our website. And I think that we must have played a part in that. When I wrote my book, I only found 2 books that were written from somebody, about their dementia. One was written by a man with dementia. That was a wonderful book. And the other one was written by a woman caring for her father. So there was a dearth of books available at that time. So that's a very big positive thing that has occurred over the last 15 years or so, 10, 15 years. And you guys are obviously a big part of that. Can I put you on the spot, Deb, and ask you if you can read something from the new book?
Ooh,
Are you prepared?
that really was on the spot.
Oh, I'll open a page.
Yeah, that is part of our format, but I forgot to ask you to
Okay.
choose a selection.
Just talk amongst yourselves for a while.
I'll ask Peter another question and I'll have a quick look.
Oh, yes, ask me a question.
Okay, so Peter, I want you to explain to us how you spent your day today.
Right, okay. We've got 2 answers to that. The short answer and the truthful answer is, I have no idea what I've done today. The other answer to that, which is more lengthy, is that I feel as though I've had a good day. Now, I know that normally my days are very active. I always get up early, and I try to do as much in the mornings myself as I can, to be as independent as possible. Now, here in where we live here, I've always heated my home with wood. So we've got a great big wood stove that is plumbed into the heating system, so it does all the hot water and all the central heating. And I love to maintain that. That's our only source of heating. So it's my job to get wood in, to light it, to do it all. That's something that I've done for over 30 years now. So that's one of the things I do. If we're not walking our little dog somewhere in the mornings, then I will meet Deb's for a coffee, go out, just see some people and just, get some air into me and just be out and about. Being in makes me very dull. It makes my mind dull. It's a little bit like a pencil with no end. You try to write with it and it's just great big thick blobby lines. If I've been out, it's a more sharpened pencil. It's a pencil that's more precise. It's a pencil that can write better. And it's also a pencil that when it's writing, everybody else can understand it better. For me, if I'm in and I've got this dull pencil, nobody can understand what's going on, what's being said, what's happening. So it's so important to keep your pencil sharp, keep your mind sharp. Just absorb as much as you can. Yes, you're going to forget it, but it doesn't matter. I'm not making memories anymore. I'm making moments. And that's the important thing. And I need people around me to help me make those moments.
Excellent.
Okay. You've thoroughly put me on the spot.
I do that. I like to do that.
I couldn't linger that any longer,
Okay, so Peter talks about how it's important for other people to enter his world. He can't enter our world. We need to enter his world and understand what it's like. So what does he mean by that? I've asked. Now, we were up in a care home with, actually, you probably know her, Nikki from Mirador magazine. Or I don't know if you've met Nikki. Mirador magazine is an American publication and it's for people with Alzheimer's, not about people with Alzheimer's. And we'd made this relationship with Nikki and she was in the UK promoting her magazine. And Peter and I went to a care home to support her. So what does Peter mean by entering his world? We were attending an event at a care home to promote a magazine. Peter had delivered his talk and was circulating with some of the residents. He stopped to talk with an elderly resident who was clearly well into her dementia journey. Peter later told me that this lady thought he was her husband. I watched as Peter effortlessly and intuitively entered her world. For those few moments, Peter became her husband, and they played out a poignant cameo of 2 people who had been together for years, They sat closely side by side, as if sheltering each other from the ravages of the outside world. They looked at the magazine, pointed at pictures, laughed and joked. Well, why would I tell her I wasn't her husband? Peter said to me later. To her, I was, and so I became her husband because it was the right thing to do. In typical Peter style, describing the moment, he moved away from her to make a cup of tea. He looked at me, winked, and said, mind you, I thought making her a cup of tea was a good idea. It was getting pretty intense in there. So that was a really good example for me watching how Peter entered somebody else's world. You set me a very hard task, Marianne, to think of something that was short but summed up Peter's attitude. And hopefully that's...
And one that you coped with remarkably well, I might say.
Yes, that was very well done.
It was really moving watching Peter interact with this lady because he understood. He understood what it was like for her. And he wasn't going to say, I'm not your husband died 10 years ago. What would have been the point? You were her husband.
Yeah.
Yes, when I started in the nursing, my nursing field, and I worked in long-term care, they used to do like these reorientations, that was the thing. So if somebody said something and that wasn't the reality, then you try to correct them. And that was back in the 1990s. And so that whole philosophy has completely changed because it doesn't really benefit, like you said, to remind this woman, if you were to say, well, your husband died. She has forgotten that her husband has died, and it is like she is just hearing this for the very first time. And imagine, when anybody hears about the death of someone they care about, it's shocking and brings on intense emotions and stuff. So why would you want to put her through that time and time and time again?
One thing my father used to do is he used to see my mother, and he would say to me, I just seen mother. He said, did you see her? Now, some of the family members would say that, oh no, mother has been dead a few years or whatever. But what I tried to explain to my family was he did see mother. But he didn't see mother, but he did. And they said, but no, he didn't. I said, he did, because in his head, he saw mother. Now, if you see something and somebody tells you you haven't seen it, and you're going to say, no, I have, because it, she, him, whatever, was right in front of me. I spoke to them. And you're convinced that that's what happened. So why spend ages arguing that black is white or white is black? Why not just go with the flow? And I used to say, oh, no, I haven't seen her. She must have gone that way, Father. I expect she'll be back in a little while. End of story. Because he did, in his head, see her. So the lady that Debs has just read about, she was 100% sure that I was her husband. So just go with the flow. It's not difficult to unlock the simple, wonderful, glowy bit of dementia rather than really try to emphasize on the nasty, mechanical, grubby bit. And that's what people tend to do. They tend to miss the simple part and think, oh, well, we can do this and we'll all be good. No, they go straight in and try and dig as big a hole as they can for everybody for some bizarre reason that I just don't understand.
Yes, I remember in my working in the nursing care homes, many residents forming attachments with somebody, and saying that this was my husband or this is my wife, and it brought them comfort. So in many cases they were widowed and widowers. So what harm was there in that?
I think the bit I read shows Peter's humour too, because he gave me that little wink and said, well, what he actually said was, I was in there then, but I thought, I can't write that. I'll dress it up a bit. You did.
Oh, God.
So, but I think it just shows his ability to put humour into quite a sad situation, and that is what makes Peter quite special, and I mean special in a nice way.
But it wasn't sad for her,
no,
because she had found her husband, she was with her husband, and as far as she was concerned, that moment in time, not memory, but that moment was very precious to her, right there and then. And she probably hadn't laughed all day until she sat with me and we had a giggle. Now, how wonderful is that? I mean, that's just an amazing thing to give somebody, isn't it, really?
It is. It's beautiful. It's so beautiful. And humor is a big part
Yeah.
of
Oh,
managing with dementia, is to, find the humor in situations and laugh together. Laughter is great medicine.
I mean, Deb's often says she's going to write something down. I said, just tell me and I'll remind you. You know,
But I think there's this feeling that you can't laugh at Alzheimer's or dementia.
No.
It's very serious.
Very serious.
And I'm not, when I laugh at Peter or when I say he's forgotten something, it's done with love. It's not done out of maliciousness. And you laugh at it. You can laugh at your condition.
You're not laughing at me, you're laughing with me. And that's two different things. We are allowed to poke fun at things because somehow if we give it a little bit of humour, it makes it a little bit more dementia-y. It somehow warms a very cold word, a very cold condition. It somehow just warms it up a little bit and just makes it a little bit more acceptable.
Perfect. That's terrific. So do you want to say a little bit about the previous two books? I know we mentioned them, but
Peter.
Oh, yes. Oh, they're rubbish. Don't read them.
Okay. So, Slow Puncture, which was published in 2020, like I said, charts my first year of knowing Peter. It challenged my understanding of what Alzheimer's was. I hadn't really had anything to do with Alzheimer's apart from an elderly relative. And I certainly didn't know that people who were as young as 50 could be diagnosed. But it mainly charts Peter's journey during his first couple of years of diagnosis, including the depression, inevitable depression, and then his decision to live well, and all the cycling challenges and fundraising challenges and awareness raising he did. And it kind of, at the centerpiece of it is a challenge he did on his penny farthing bike, which was to cycle around our part of East Anglia over 5 days. And that was kind of the core of the book, really. And in between that and Patching the Puncture, we had a compilation of his poetry. Not poetry that you and I might call poetry, but it was his thoughts about living with Alzheimer's, which he used to text me maybe at the end of a long day, and I'd keep them, and then I thought I'd put them into a very short book. And then Patching the Puncture, obviously due out at the end of the month. And to me, this feels special because now we have an audience. Now we have people who are keen to read it. With Slow Puncture, I didn't know where we were going with it.
Mhm.
Now we've got the AlzAuthors logo. We've got the award we won from UK Health Radio. We've got 32 people, who, including your good self, who've written endorsements about the book. And we've got people who came to our book launch who wanted the book and wanted us to sign the book and wanted to know about the book. So it's a bit scarier than the first book because the expectations are higher.
Yes.
I think, looking at it in a sort of critical way, I think it's a better book because I know Peter better and I know myself better.
Very well.
Oh, thank you. You keep me on.
I will keep you on. It's just for another week or two.
Okay, excellent.
Until I find somebody better, of course.
Good luck with that.
That's fantastic. So will there be any more books?
Well, after Slow Puncture, people asked me that question and I said, no. And then someone said, oh, you should write a book. So I did. So I don't know. I don't want to be repetitive in what I write about, but who knows what the next 4 or 5 years will bring. We might do even more astonishing things, and Peter might say more amazing metaphorical insights into his condition. So who knows?
Well, I think personally that the journey doesn't stop with Patching the Puncture. I think people need to know the next part of the journey to help people, because I'm very certain that as this condition changes within me and as my abilities change, we will keep finding solutions. And I think that it's now ingrained in me to try and broadcast these solutions to people so that wherever they are on this journey, they'll have something to reference, maybe. That's sort of where I think I would like to go with it in the future.
Then you only have to ask.
I just did.
Yes. But I mean, I think the extraordinary thing about both the main books are that I've written some of it in Peter's voice, and it is Peter's voice, but he's never read what I've written. And so the level of trust he shows in me is quite astonishing, really, and probably slightly foolish.
Oh, isn't it? Oh.
But they are, Peter's voice is represented in the book. But the fact he can read, but you forget what you read. So reading is quite frustrating. So it feels both an honour and a privilege, but also a responsibility to write about Peter and factor in his family and what they would think. It's a big thing, really.
In actual fact, I never listen to or watch anything that I have done. So I as Deb said, I haven't read the books. I have never watched any videos or any Zooms, or I haven't listened to myself. I haven't done any of that. The books is because, as Deb has said, I forget what I'm reading. The other stuff is that sometimes I want to move away from dementia, and when I've done what I've done, I then don't want to listen to pull it apart. I just, as long as it's gone out as a resource to help other people, then that's the only reason that I think that I need to do it. That's all.
Yeah, I understand, because I kind of am the same way. After I do a podcast interview or whatever, I may not listen to it. So you can only, you need to be there, and then you need to move on and focus on something else, I find. And I think a lot of the authors in our organization have done that. They've written their story, they've put out their book, they've done the book tour, and then after a while they kind of want to leave that behind.
I think the thing is that we're sometimes in danger of dragging our condition around on a chain with a ball, and it can slow you down. You need to be able to leave it in one place, walk away from it, come back to it every now and again, pick it up and see how heavy and bad it is, but then walk away from it. That's what we need to do, rather than just constantly dragging it around with us 24/7, because nobody can stick that, and nobody can put up with that in their lives.
Absolutely. Well done. Well said. Where can people find your books?
Okay, so we have a website, www.peter-berry.com, and that has the links to our social media. And so including that, we'll have a link to where the books are. So Slow Puncture is on Amazon in the UK, both as a hard copy, an audio and a Kindle. At the moment, I think Patching the Puncture is only going to be a Kindle version in America, but I'm going to find out if that's true or not. Obviously in the UK, the major bookshops and in the independent bookshops in Suffolk, and where else would they be? Or direct from the publisher. But again, I don't know whether a publisher in the UK, I suppose they would send to the United States, wouldn't they? But if people go on the website, that would direct you to various different social media sites, and there'll be a lot of things about the book right across social media. You need not worry about that.
Right. Deb is a very active poster on Facebook and Instagram and the usual channels. So you can find out what's going on with them there and follow their journey. It really is fascinating and uplifting. So I recommend that you do that. We also have several other podcasts and blog posts on our website at AlzAuthors.com. There's a search tool at the top. You can plug in their names and hit enter, and you will find all of the times when they appeared on AlzAuthors doing panel discussions. Peter has been on a couple of panel discussions with other people who are living with dementia, having a conversation about their experiences, which are wonderful, wonderful resources. I don't know that there's ever been a gathering such as that. That was recorded and is on a YouTube and on a podcast. So that's lovely. And They've done other interviews together, and Deb has also written several blog posts as well about her experiences and has actually written about other people living with dementia that are part of AlzAuthors. So there's a lot of content there. You can find a lot of information from these two who have really gifted us with their exquisite friendship and their sharing. That didn't have to be done, the sharing part. But we are so glad that you have done that. It has just been illuminating and invigorating and all of those good things. And I am so happy to have met you and to have you in my life and to have read your books. And I also want to say thank you for the wonderful chapter in the book about AlzAuthors in Patching the Puncture.
And to mention that there is a whole chapter dedicated. Chapters aren't long, but they're long enough, dedicated to AlzAuthors and the impact it had on my confidence and on the book and the different avenues it opened up and the amazing work that Marianne and Jean and Vicky did to get the whole thing started, and my gratitude for they validated my journey really, and they made me feel it was a journey worth taking. So that there is a lot to be thankful for from you. Thank you.
Oh, you're so welcome. And we've heard that, and that's been one of our key words, validation. People coming forth with their story, which is extremely frightening. And especially if you're not a person that is a writer and have never written a book or put anything together like this, which, is most of the people in AlzAuthors, but they would send it to us and we would read it, and then we would offer them encouragement or support or, validation. And they would continue to go on their journey with the blessings of AlzAuthors. And then those people who maybe didn't, meet the bar, we would offer them encouragement and solutions and suggestions on how they could better their work. And they would do that and come back to us, and then the book would be accepted. So we only accepted about 60% of the books that came our way.
Which I find astonishing, really. And that, I guess that adds to my own feelings of validation.
Yes, yeah, and some of the books aren't well done, or they don't really address the personal journey, or they're not told in a proper way. So we would decline them, and we get some books that were not even about Alzheimer's and dementia. So
oh, really?
be about other things, and maybe there would be a chapter at the end about someday then they got dementia, and it's like, no, that's not what we're looking for. We're looking for ways to help people find their own way and their own journey. So that's kind of been the focus. So thank you to both. You've just been such an asset to us, and I wish you well and want to stay in communication. We may continue the podcast for AlzAuthors through All Home Care Matters in the future, so you always have a home with us. And keep me posted on all that you do. If there's another book, I don't know when I'll get back to England, but perhaps you'll come to the United States. That would be something.
That's quite a long bike ride, but you know what?
Yeah, it is a long bike ride.
Well, I should like to say that that's been wonderful to be on this afternoon, and it has certainly brightened a very dull afternoon in the UK for me. It's been a ray of sunshine to see you. How wonderful is that?
I am so glad. So glad. Thank you both.
Thank you, Marianne.
Thank you for listening to Untangling Alzheimer's and Dementia, an AlzAuthors podcast. For more details on this episode, please see the show notes. If you enjoyed the podcast, please leave a review and subscribe to it on whichever platform you use to listen to your favorite podcasts. For more information on AlzAuthors, please visit AlzAuthors.com. While you're there, be sure to browse our online bookstore, where you will find hundreds of carefully vetted books on Alzheimer's and dementia. You can also find us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Please email your thoughts on the podcast to alzauthors@gmail.com. We are a 501c3 charitable organization, totally reliant on donations to do what we do. If our authors' stories move you, please consider contributing to our cause. Remember, you are not alone. One can sing a lonely song, but we chose to form a choir and create harmony.